All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, fresh off of securing a big win on the previous Saturday over then-ranked Texas A&M, Notre Dame appeared to be poised to build off of that in order to make a run at the college football playoff. But the Huskies of Northern Illinois were quick to say, not on my watch. So the Huskies of Northern Illinois, they went to South Bend yesterday as 28 and a half point underdogs. But when they headed back to DeKalb, Illinois, not only did they have 1.4 million in their pockets, courtesy of Notre Dame, they also secured the biggest upset in the history of their football program. We saw Notre Dame get frustrated all afternoon long by this Northern Illinois team as the Huskies upset the Fighting Irish by the score of 16-14. This was a huge win for Northern Illinois. And as big as it was for Northern Illinois, it was equally deflating if you're Notre Dame. Now, I said this before, and I said this in the preseason, and I even said this after the win over Texas A&M last year. I felt that Notre Dame had a legit chance to get to the college football playoff. Why? A, because they're Notre Dame, and B, they had a very favorable schedule. And the fact that they were able to go on the road in a hostile environment at Kyle Field against Texas A&M, a ranked team at the time, and get the win, I think that was going to be something for the Fighting Irish to build off of. That was not the case because this is no disrespect to Northern Illinois. But if you're Notre Dame and you're ranked number 5 in the nation, like you were, and of course they were still ranked in the top 10 to begin this season, you can't lose at home, okay, to a school from the MAC if you want to be a playoff team. Now, the Irish, yes, we I just talked about it. They gave Northern Illinois 1.4 million for them to come down the South Bend. But aside from that 1.4 million, how much did this really cost Notre Dame? Because it is going to be an uphill battle for them to get to the college football playoff, and of course, get that big payday from it. I mean, you look at Notre Dame's schedule; they still got some games up there that could be some marquee games, if you will. Against Louisville, uh, against Georgia Tech, even though Georgia Tech lost yesterday on the road to Syracuse. That Florida State game, forget it. It doesn't hold as much water as it did a couple of weeks ago before the season started. And to me, their last saving grace right now is traveling to LA to take on USC at the end of the year. But the way that USC is looking right now and the way that Notre Dame is looking right now, we might be talking about USC getting ready for the college football playoff at that point, and Notre Dame trying to go out there and play spoiler. One thing's for sure, defensively, Notre Dame has looked pretty solid in the first two games, but the Duke transfer at quarterback, Riley Leonard, he has really not looked comfortable. He really hasn't looked that great so far, in his two games with Notre Dame. No touchdown passes. He threw two costly interceptions yesterday against the Huskies. He was 20 of 32 passing for a buck 63. And of course, those two INTs. We also had the two missed field goals by Mitch Jeter, even though the attempt at the end I really thought was a reach. Anytime you get into that 50 plus, and of course, in that case, about 60 yards or so, that's a hard ask from your kicker. The opposing team knows that it's going to be a lower kick, which means he's trying to drive it to give it that distance, so it's easier to block. I really do think Notre Dame maybe should have had tried to run one more play to even get an additional 7 to 10 yards, if possible, for that kick. And of course, that was not the case. At the end of the day, this loss falls into the lap of the head coach, and it's Marcus Freeman. It's one of those, he said all of the right things, But to me, in my opinion, this team was not ready to play yesterday. I look at Notre Dame, they scored on their opening drive of the game, an 11-yard run from Riley Leonard. But then right after that, Northern Illinois came right back and responded with that big 83-yard run from Ontario Brown to tie the score at 7 apiece. And from that point on, the Huskies of Northern Illinois, they just simply said, you know what, game on. We're just not here to collect the paycheck. We're also here to go out there and compete and win this game. And that is a credit to their head coach Thomas Hammock because he had his guys ready to play. For me, I look at this from several standpoints. Number one, if you're a school from the Power Four, one of the Power Four conferences, you're basically loving Northern Illinois right now. Why? Because for Notre Dame to get to the playoff, that means that they would have been taking a spot away from one of those teams from the Power Four. Now that means that the Power Four leagues are going to have an additional opportunity to get another one of those spots. Uh, for me, I liken this loss, and this is the beauty of sports, but I liken this loss to the NCAA tournament when we see a 2 seed go down to a 15 seed or a 3 seed go down to a 14 seed. There's always going to be upsets in March Madness. There's always going to be upsets in college football as well. There's always going to be some teams that don't live up to the expectations. And this is one of those here where, if you're Notre Dame, like I said before, you're really going to be fighting an uphill battle going forward to try to get to that college football playoff. But to me, it won't matter unless Notre Dame gets better on offense. And for what we've seen so far in their first two games of the season, it's really not a lot to write home about. But nonetheless, if you're the Fighting Irish, you go on the road to take on Purdue this Saturday in West Lafayette. I want to see how Notre Dame responds. Most importantly for me, I want to see how the Fighting Irish respond on offense. It's one of those. It was a gut punch yesterday if you're Notre Dame. You've got to be prepared to go out there. You've got to go out there and take care of your business. Notre Dame didn't. Northern Illinois came to play. The Huskies deserved to win. And in being deserved to win, they did go out there and win. So kudos to Northern Illinois for taking care of their business. It's back to the drawing board for the Fighting Irish. And let's see what type of effort that we're going to see from Notre Dame when they take on the Boilermakers this Saturday. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.